today's topic is pretty interesting as well. So
Okay,
let's start with that.
sure, Vivek. Okay. Now, so we are talking about we're talking about AI, right? So it's a kind of a
Yes,
buzzword, and everybody is talking about AI. So
certainly.
let me ask you, Vivek. So if I tell you about AI, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
That's a very good question, Kiran. The first thing that comes to my mind is automation of repetitive tasks that maybe we as humans are not that efficient to perform on a regular basis. And that's what I feel like AI can help in those areas wherein the task is the same, but it needs to be efficient, and rather than focusing on this could be applied to tasks which are more uh, process oriented in nature is is what comes to my mind.
Okay, so like if I tell you, like if I ask you, what is the Chat GPT? Do you think it's a AI?
Yes, Chat GPT is definitely intelligence. It hasn't reached the level of intelligence, but certainly I feel like in the next 2 years it has added a lot of modules
Right.
under it, like reasoning has been added. So the pace at which they are progressing, I feel like um, we are not really far away from artificial intelligence. An intelligence being that is has its own process and way of thinking, and it doesn't need much of human input in
Right,
order to make it work. It can decide on its own
right.
what steps to take.
Yeah. So, there was like a quote, I heard it from somewhere. So it goes with like this, like, what a time to live, right? This is the time. This author was speaking about, it's what a time to live, right? This is a most, what do you say? Most challenging beautiful lives or beautiful thing, right? Beautiful, this is happening all around thing that was never happened before, right? Like it's a like a era when you are like just starting, or just knowing about internet, right? When the internet came, uh, like when internet started, maybe it was around 1990s, right? So when it was starting out, many people were like, were not aware of it. Some were adopting it, some were just were becoming curious. But after when it expanded, it boomed up, right? It expanded, and many organizations come abroad, became on board, right? And it started, and people started to see how it have impacted people's lives, how organization was able to expand their business. So it revolutionized the whole world, right? And that is the same thing with AI. And as you said, right, and maybe after 4 or 5 years, the scenario will be totally different, you know. Maybe many jobs will be lost, many new one will be created. But it's a, and we are like very fortunate, let's say I will call, we are very fortunate that we are going to able to see that changes with our own eyes. Whether it is for good or bad, I don't know, but we are very fortunate individuals that we are going to see these things with our own eyes in our own lifetime. Because no one, because like, the AI, the people were working on AI from 1960s. It never got that attention. But after the Chat GPT came in 2022, right? Then there was previous version also, but when it launched, OpenAI, launched Chat GPT on, I think it was around 2022. Then the things took up. Even the Elon Musk said that it's a very scary technology.
I completely agree with that. Yes. It is scary because change is always scary. And every time something new comes up, we as people tend to think only the worst.
Right.
It's human nature,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Anything new happens, we always tend to think, oh, this is going to destroy the society, or this is going to be much worse than what is happening right now. But it is, but I feel there are a lot of good things that is going to happen in terms of medical science, in terms of innovation, in terms of access to people who do not, who didn't had access to learning, like kids from impoverished areas, right? The AI can help them learn. People who have neurodivergence problems, like people who have problems understanding things, AI can make things simpler for them to understand and start working on it. So there are a lot of good things that we tend to ignore and rather focus on the bad things. But again, financial crime is all about finding out the bad guys. And I came up with a very interesting study, and it really was focused upon like how we into financial crime think of AI is going to take up a lot of things, right? Like we know that there is a lot of use case scenarios where AI will be performing really good compared to a human.
Right.
But at the same time, we also know that human oversight is needed, right? At the end of the day, so let me give you an example. Let me start with a imagine there's a scenario wherein a customer known as John Doe is structuring a series of very low value cash deposits, like just under the threshold of $10,000. He's basically doing structuring, right? And spreading them across accounts that appear to be owned by different businesses like John's Appliances, Doe Electrical. So he is transferring all those cash deposits into different sort of accounts. At a, Now, at a first glance, the transaction seems legitimate, and because the entities, they are not related, they are not from, you know, they are from different. The names are different, but someone who is a human investigator, he having the knowledge and the context, like what is the local business environment, and he would definitely identify that the customer behavior is definitely a red flag, because the ownership of the business as well as the location are very close. So when this particular scenario was run into a AI by an AI tool, it didn't catch the red flags. It missed out on it. And the reason was that the AI was relying on historical patterns without taking into consideration the deeper context of the and missed the connection between the accounts. So this is a very interesting case that I read upon, that how the AI is still at a very nascent phase in financial
Right.
crime. It's very early stages, but it won't take much time for it to catch up.
Yeah. So yeah, Vivek, I'm also quite studying AI, machine learning AI. So I think I started on this journey around like 2017, uh, right before I was about to prepare for CAMS exam. And I know I don't know that much, but I'm still learning, applying things, making application. But people, I have seen like a lot of interviews, a lot of people talking about AI. And when I listen to them, right, most of them, right, and especially in the financial crime area or compliance area, when they are talking about AI, I can, from their, from their, let's say, words, or from their speech, I can, tell them that this guy don't know, don't know, let's say, 1% about AI. As you rightly said, that AI didn't detect the transaction because it was not able to understand the context, right? Even ChatGPT is not a AI. It's a weak AI. Even ChatGPT, if you ask ChatGPT what kind of AI you are, it will tell you that I am a very weak AI because, as you said, it is it is trained on the vast amount of previous datas, right? And it is just predicting. Whenever you ask the question, it will provide you answer on the basis of those data. It is not creating a new kind of a data or generating those let's say very like a people, like human mind does, right? It creates a new thing because it has a we have a rationality, we have a creative intelligence, we have a cognitive abilities. So we are able to create a new we can imagine new thing, create new things. So ChatGPT is just based on a it's based on a large language model, and it's actually a machine learning which is based on a past which is trained on a past data that can predict a new data. So we are not at that phase. And whenever compliance people, or let's say even I have heard some CEOs, when they say that they will apply AI or in their, let's say, organization to solve all those issues, or let's say identify financial crime, it's a, like a very long shot. You actually need to understand what is the capabilities of AI first. What is it? There are different branches of AIs, right? And there is a computer vision, machine learning, deep learning. There is the NLTK. So that is a large language models. So you have to understand their use cases, and you have to understand your requirements, and then you have to match with which kind of technology that you are going to use. And you also need to analyze what is going to be advantages and disadvantages. See, there is a thing in IT, we call it like GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So unless and until your data is that finely grained, or it's a very accurate one, until that time you will not going to get a good result. Whichever powerful algorithm or AI technology you will use, you are not going to get a good result, right? And people need to develop first infrastructure properly. Even implementing AML safety solution, they have to develop good infrastructure. They have to make ensure are there uh, let's say staffs are well trained in that. They have a knowledge in that area, and only after that assessing their own, or let's say doing their own risk assessment, they should think of applying that technology. This is my opinion. What do you think, Vivek?
I completely agree, Kiran. That's a very good point that AI is still at a very nascent stage. And most of the people who go on to give speeches and talks and discussions, they have just scratched the surface. Maybe they have just read one article and they came to the podium and started discussing about it. They are not practitioners as such. They are more like people who just saw the superficial level and heard things from their friends, or you know from TV or something. So definitely, since you are a practitioner of AI, you have a much better grip on this subject. And as you said that the AI depends on historical data. The historical data is not good enough, then the garbage there will be garbage being spun out
Right.
rather than something qualitative quality level. So that's what happened in this scenario as well, wherein a bank tried to test the waters before implementing the AI system, and then they found out that the AI was not able to handle such scenarios, you know. An AI can be as good as the person who is operating it.
Right. Right.
AI hasn't reached a level where it can, on its own, start developing process. It will be only as good as Kiran can provide the best prompt and can know what nuances and what context needs to be focused upon. Otherwise, it will just spit out things that even Google can do that.
Right. So I so there was like a, maybe it was like 5 or 6 years back. So in Nepal, we are just implementing AML safety solution, and so there was this vendor, and there was this vendor, and he came to, like, he came to our bank to present us with his solution. And during that
Hmm.
presentation, our at that time, our CEO, and he was like, I admire him, he's a very knowledgeable person. And he asked him with a simple question, and that this is a very interesting question, I still remember it. So there was a wire transfer, right? So there was a wire transfer between two companies. So it was about, because one company has imported some goods, and for which it was making payment. So um, so this company name were, uh, had a electronics word, electronics in them, right? Let's say ABC Electronics uh, Limited was paying XYZ Electronics Company in India, right? It was making a payment, and the so the bank actually allowed that transaction, right? But that correspondent bank rejected that transaction. And there, and it was very interesting. So they said that the reason they canceled that transaction was that, although the payment is made between these two companies, but the purpose of the transaction is was written in that Swift message was payment for importing apples, right? So they now the correspondent bank asks why these electronics company are making payment for apples, right?
Hmm.
And our CEO asks this question to those vendor: how you are going to detect such kind of a wire transfer, fraudulent wire transfer messages? And that person didn't had an answer for that, right? And he said, I will get back to you maybe in future, but he never got back to us, right? So let me ask you, Vivek. So in this situation, what do you think would have helped, or how do you think the solution, any kind of solution, could help to detect such kind of fraudulent wire messages?
Well, wire messages are the most critical field that is being scanned by each and every bank, and it reveals a lot of good information. And the correspondent banking bankers, they did the right thing. There was a total mismatch between the business they were in and what they were actually doing in terms of the transactions. So I feel like a Swift message um can should be more detailed. I feel it only helps the company who are doing the transaction rather than being so brief and vague about things. Adding more context and more details can ok- it always helps the transaction to go through. So I feel uh, there should have been more clarity, or the correspondent banking should have done a reach out to the clients and try to gain that level of information rather than rejecting the transaction completely
Right,
and sending the funds back. I feel a reach out would have also helped them do the get the audit trail in place, so they can show it to the regulators as well that we did our job.
right.
What do you think about this?
Yeah. So in that scenario, if both my CEO and the AML vendors both were wrong, actually. So that could not have been detected without human eyes. Or there should have been some person looking at that Swift message, and he was only able to understand that context. At
Hmm.
that time, AI was not there, and so even with that AI, as you said, like you gave the example, right? Previous example, it would not have able to understand that context. So
Hmm.
so the correspondent bank didn't tell our bank like how they found that transaction. They just rejected the transaction, and our CEO simply assumed that they must have some kind of a technology. And if AML vendor said that our solution could provide you like has such a capabilities to detect such kind of transaction, they would have been dead wrong, right? And so the best solution, right? You can currently we have a transaction screening system in our wire messages, right? It screens applicant, beneficiary, like vessel and other details, again sanction list, not more than that. It doesn't do any other, let's say artificial intelligence things, right? So if you want to have a AI to identify such kind of fraudulent transaction, you need to create a model. You need to build some kind of a deep learning model or machine learning model where you need to train all those parameters, like what will be the good case, what will be the bad case. Only on that, only after developing such kind of model, you will able to identify such kind of a fraud transaction. And many people don't understand this, right? They think that like AI is like a on the shelf of the shelf solution, and they are just going to implement that solution in financial crime area, and it will just start doing its work. Because if you want to implement AI solution in your organization, it will take almost 2 3 years, right? Because it has to understand that you have to almost your 60 to 70% time will be spent on pre-processing the data, analyzing the data, getting out, arranging the data, collecting the data, and only after you will able to create a model. And that model will also not start to work immediately. It has to be trained for, let's say, at least 6 or 1 year, and after that it will give you a result. And many people think that like AI will, once you implement AI, everything, it's like a silver bullet to all kind of solution. And that is a very wrong, big misconception, I would say.
Yes, certainly, certainly. This is what a lack of understanding from a practitioner's point of view is leads to this sort of thinking, wherein you think that it is like it can run out of the box, you know,
Right.
and which doesn't happen. All the AIs need to be trained on the kind of data and transactions that you are dealing with, and so machine learning algorithms can improve the identification of reportable transactions, enabling more efficient compliance programs.
Right.
But the oversight by a human is needed
Right.
at critical junctures.
Right.
It
Right.
can definitely improve the identification, but the oversight cannot be, the human element cannot be taken aside for now.
Right. Right. We are really far away from that. And
Yes.
so, so we are like running out of time. Maybe 7 minutes left. Okay. It's okay. We'll after that. I have already prepared a link. I'll share you the link. Right,
Okay.
before the time completes.
I right. So, Kiran, also I feel like what kind of opportunities we as financial crime investigators, I think the positions, the opportunities that are opening up, which I see on the horizon are, some of them are AI trainers,
Right.
QA analyst,
Right.
and business liaisons,
Right.
and of course, data scientist.
Mm.
So these are some of the new roles which we see uh, that are being looked into by various companies are hiring for these kind of roles, which is a uh, combination of financial crime expertise as well as the AI knowledge and understanding and practice, the practice, which is the most important part of it. That combination is what companies are looking for. Um, AML professionals will need advanced analytical skills to interpret AI outputs and guide systems towards detecting emerging risk. So definitely that is something that we as investigators also need to work upon. Uh, and one of the major things that I feel it can do in terms of organizational change is AI requires integrated data across departments.
Right,
I mean, Kiran, we know how data works. Every department holds their own data set and they are not ready to share it with other departments. Because again, there are more of regulatory approvals and stuff like that that comes into play. But AML, AI, in order to function effectively, the silos needs to be destroyed. The silos needs to be taken care of so that the data can come together and give that context for the AI to train upon.
right. The close collaboration is needed because uh, even the I will say that AML AML officer, or let's say compliance officer, he is actually a liaison officer because he has to understand the context of that transaction or context of that person, or whenever he is kind of investigating a financial crime, or let's say some kind of preparing some kind of a STR report. Okay, so if he base his conclusion based on only one transaction or only or a single part of analysis, then he would be the quality of STR will be impacted. So he has to, as you said, yeah, he has to understand the overall context, and for that he or she will need a lot of data, and which are available inside the organization. Maybe that customer has done some kind of a remittance activities, wire transfer, maybe he has taken some loan, right? So after you collect all this data from various department or function areas, then only you will be able to understand the whole story and determine whether this person is doing some kind of fishy activities, and whether the STR is justifiable in this case, right? So yeah, close collaboration and the interrelationship between them, and there should be like a central repository, right, where you could collect all this information, and which could be available to you at your tips of finger, and only after that you can have a good financial crime investigation in your organization.
Very true. And another point that I would like to add is AI and Chat GPT and LLM technologies. They are already into play into adverse media screening,
Right,
which forms a very big part of a financial investigation. Adverse media screening has been improved because of AI. Natural language processing (NLP) helps you understand the sentiments, helps you understand the emotions. It can
right,
also identify uh, how it is adverse, and it can also give a rating: high risk, low risk, or medium risk, depending upon the kind of words that is being used. But it has moved beyond words to understanding the underlying scenarios as well. So, because again, you can use powerful words or you can use much subtle words, and you can play with the content, which can of course bias the investigator. So that is an area where AI has improved a lot.
right. Even there are like I think that there are I think organizations which are using AI to detect fraud transaction, based on the narration, and based on the narration of transaction they are able to detect whether this transaction is fraud or not, right? So yes, but again, I will say that you need to have a good quality of data first. So in order to implement, before you are implementing any kind of AI, you have to implement you have to have a good quality of data, and after you train your algorithm and on that data, it will start generating good results. Not until not before that. That's my take
True,
on
true.
this.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Very true.
Yeah, Vivek. So
Yes,
I
Kiran.
was telling. So I'm going to start a YouTube series, video series on AI. So where I'm going to try to explain users by developing some AI application as a proof of concept, like how they can use such kind of AI technology in their day-to-day job, or let's say in a compliance areas or in other areas also, right? So yeah, I think that will give them a good perspective on like what this kind of technology is and how they can leverage it for to increase their productivity in their day-to-day job.
That's a really good idea, Kiran. I think that's the need of the hour, and nobody is doing something like that. And I think you have found a very good niche. And yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah. So any concluding remarks? But as we said, we are going to do part two of this podcast, right? But we
Yes.
want to like say like some thoughts or concluding thoughts.
I would say I would say to our viewers that we will be coming up with some very interesting case studies and scenarios, and these are the scenarios and case studies which will be something that you're gonna encounter in your workplace as well. So we will be covering that in our forthcoming episode, and do watch out for that, and do post any questions that you might have.
Right. Right. Rightly put, Vivek. So yeah. So I think it's a good place that we stop podcast here.